The day humanity first made contact with the Vorkai was nothing like anyone had imagined. There was no grand meeting in a glowing embassy or handshake with extraterrestrials on a peaceful, serene world. Instead, it began with a chilling message broadcast across every communications channel, every device on Earth. The Vorkai didn't waste time with pleasantries. They simply announced their presence. "We are the Vorkai." The voice echoed from every screen, deep and metallic, commanding attention. "We offer you peace, but this peace comes with a price. Earth will fall under our protection, and you will bow to our leadership. Submit now or face the consequences." At first, the world didn't know how to respond. The message was broadcast across every platform, from the simplest radio waves to the most advanced satellites. Governments scrambled to make sense of what was happening. Some people thought it was a hoax. Another hoax among the many alien conspiracies that circulated on the internet. Others, more fearful, immediately understood that this was real and that humanity was now standing on the precipice of something much larger than themselves. The United Nations convened an emergency session. World leaders gathered in a hastily called summit, unsure of what to do. President David Moreau, newly elected and quick to take charge, spoke first. "We cannot, we will not, surrender our world to these beings. We cannot simply allow ourselves to be ruled. We are humans. We fight. We always have." But not everyone shared his conviction. The Chancellor of the European Union, Amelia Davila, took a more measured approach. "We don't understand their technology. We don't know what they're capable of. We can't just ignore this offer. They say they will protect us. Why should we reject that? Maybe this is our chance to advance as a species." The debate raged on for hours, dividing leaders and citizens alike. Would humanity choose independence and risk annihilation, or would they capitulate to the Vorkai and secure a future under their powerful rule? There were no easy answers. Some military leaders spoke of preparing for war, others of preparing for peace. But as the sun set that evening, the decision was made. Humanity would not bow. Moreau stood before the assembly with fire in his eyes. "We reject their offer. We stand free. We stand united. We will not let any force on this earth or beyond dictate our future." He turned to the gathered representatives. "The Vorkai think they can subjugate us. Let's show them the true power of humanity." The Vorkai had given humanity one chance. They made their decision clear. The Vorkai commander, Girac, sent a final transmission, his voice laced with cold fury. "You have made your choice. You will regret it. When we return, it will be too late." A collective chill ran down the spines of the world's leaders. They had rejected peace, and now humanity would face the full force of the Vorkai's wrath. It didn't take long for humanity to realize the full scope of their decision. Just a week after their rejection of the Vorkai's offer, the first sign of the alien fleet's power came crashing down. The sky over every major city darkened as the Vorkai ships descended from the heavens, massive foreboding silhouettes against the clouds. The world watched in horror as they hovered above, their enormous size blocking out the sun. Then, without warning, they struck. In New York, the Empire State Building shattered in a flash of blinding light. The streets below turned to rubble as the alien ships released energy blasts that tore through skyscrapers like paper. The Vorkai had no interest in subtlety. They didn't land, didn't demand surrender. They simply obliterated anything in their path. London, Paris, Tokyo, all fell within hours, their iconic landmarks reduced to smoldering ruins. Humanity tried to retaliate. The military launched counterstrikes, scrambling fighter jets and deploying every weapon at their disposal, but it was like using a slingshot against a storm. The Vorkai weapons were so advanced that even the most powerful missiles and lasers bounced harmlessly off their ships. Ground troops stood no chance against the Vorkai's energy fields, which disintegrated anything they touched. The alien ships seemed invincible. Girac's voice echoed again, broadcast across the ruins of the Earth's communications networks. This is your punishment for defying us. Your cities, your lives, your future, they belong to us now. We give you one final chance to surrender. If you do not, we will erase you from this world entirely." Panic gripped the planet. Governments collapsed under the weight of the invasion. The UN disbanded as global leaders were either killed or fled to underground bunkers. But even in the face of annihilation, humanity did not lose its resolve. Desperation took root, and with it came a fierce determination to survive. Among the chaos, President Moreau remained defiant. He addressed the survivors from a hidden command center. "This is not the end of us. We are human. We will fight. We will resist. We will make them regret underestimating us." In the streets, ordinary people were beginning to fight back as well. Citizens in cities like Chicago and Sydney formed resistance cells, using whatever they had: makeshift weapons, old military equipment, anything to fend off the invaders. Though poorly equipped and outgunned, humanity's instinct to survive kicked in. Resistance fighters launched guerrilla attacks against the alien forces, sabotaging supply lines and using the terrain to their advantage. Each victory, no matter how small, became a symbol of humanity's resilience. The aliens, unable to comprehend this tenacity, began to change their tactics. The Vorkai weren't just here to destroy. They were studying humans, learning from them. But even as humanity struggled, the cost of defiance became clear. The world was scared. Entire regions were uninhabitable. Tens of millions had already perished, and the death toll continued to climb. Yet, in the face of total annihilation, something deep within the human spirit awakened. We refuse to be slaves. A leader of the resistance in South Africa declared over a crackling radio transmission, "We will not kneel." As the fires of war spread across the earth, humanity had made one thing clear: it would not submit to the Vorkai. The world was in ruins, but the fight was only just beginning. The devastation across the planet was undeniable, but amid the ruins, something began to stir. People, driven to the brink of despair, had started to fight back. It wasn't just soldiers and military personnel now. It was anyone with a will to survive. Ordinary civilians, from factory workers to teachers, were picking up arms and using whatever they could find to resist the alien invaders. It was chaotic. It was disorganized, but it was hope, however faint. At the heart of this new rebellion was Sergeant Alex Carter, a decorated military veteran who had seen his fair share of combat, but nothing could have prepared him for the nightmare the Vorkai brought. Having lost his family in the early days of the invasion, Carter's grief turned into rage. He swore vengeance on the alien invaders who had taken everything from him. But even more than that, he was determined to ensure that humanity did not simply lie down and accept its fate. Carter's first act was simple. He gathered survivors. He didn't have much in terms of weapons or resources, but what he had was a clear vision. We can't fight them conventionally. They're too strong, too advanced. But we can hit them where it hurts, through guerrilla warfare, sabotage, and intelligence. We can learn from them and use their weaknesses against them. His words resonated with the survivors who gathered under his command. There was something magnetic about Carter, a hardened leader who didn't just speak about resistance, but embodied it in every action. They trained, improvising weapons and using their knowledge of the terrain to their advantage. Carter's small band became a symbol of defiance, proving that no matter how technologically superior the Vorkai were, humanity was resourceful enough to find a way. One day, after weeks of skirmishes, Carter's team captured an alien supply convoy. It wasn't much, just a few supplies and some minor weaponry. But it was a breakthrough. Carter ordered his team to reverse engineer the captured technology. It was slow work, but they made surprising progress. A scientist, Dr. Emily Tran, working alongside Carter, managed to extract a piece of alien technology that could potentially be weaponized. She was astounded by the technology's complexity, but there was something about it that made her believe they could turn it into a game changer. "We may be outmatched," Carter said as he watched Dr. Tran work. "But we're not out of ideas. This is how we win, by making them underestimate us." The Vorkai, for all their power, were predictable in their arrogance. They never thought that humans, who they viewed as primitive, could pose any real threat. But that was their mistake. Carter and his team were learning more and more each day about the weaknesses in the Vorkai's defenses. They had discovered that the aliens' energy shields were powerful but required significant power to maintain. If they could strike at the power sources, even the smallest disruption could cause a catastrophic failure in their ships. The first successful strike came during a mission to sabotage a Vorkai power station. It wasn't perfect. There were casualties, and the operation was chaotic. But the result was undeniable. The Vorkai warship, crippled by the sabotage, plummeted to Earth. The Resistance celebrated their victory, however small. But Carter knew it was only the beginning. Each victory would come at a price, and they had to be ready to pay it. "We've got their attention now," Carter said, looking over the charred remains of the alien ship, "and we're not going to stop until they regret ever coming here." Across the globe, humanity's resistance began to gain traction. The world was battered, yes, but it wasn't broken. People who had never fought a day in their lives now took up arms, inspired by the growing resistance movement. And as humanity united under a banner of survival, the Vorkai's arrogance would soon turn into doubt. The days following the destruction of the Vorkai power station marked a turning point for humanity. What had begun as isolated pockets of resistance quickly evolved into a coordinated global movement. Carter's small band of fighters, once a scattered group of survivors, had now become the spark for a fire that was spreading across the world. Earth's people were no longer simply reacting to the invasion. They were adapting, learning, and retaliating. In cities where rubble and chaos had once reigned, a strange sense of purpose began to emerge. Across the world, underground networks of resistance fighters communicated, shared resources, and coordinated their efforts. They hit alien supply lines, sabotaged weapon caches, and launched raids on Vorkai patrols. Each success was a testament to humanity's unyielding spirit and ability to outthink their invaders. Carter, now a symbol of humanity's resilience, found himself not only leading battles but guiding humanity's survival. He knew the aliens still held the upper hand, but humanity had something they didn't: adaptability. While the Vorkai relied on brute force and their advanced technology, the humans were making use of their surroundings in ways the Vorkai never expected. They used the urban jungle to their advantage, setting traps in alleyways, disabling alien weaponry with old-fashioned tactics, and even using knowledge of the terrain to create ambush points. It was during one of these raids that Carter received a critical piece of intelligence. A Vorkai supply convoy, carrying vital components for the alien fleet, was set to pass through a small rural town. The convoy, heavily guarded, was expected to deliver crucial materials to the Vorkai warships, giving them a significant advantage. Carter knew that taking down the convoy could cripple the alien forces and slow their advance. The resistance members he led were now seasoned fighters, honed by months of guerrilla warfare. They were no longer afraid of fighting back. Carter's plan was simple yet dangerous: cut off the convoy's path, ambush the aliens, and seize the components before the Vorkai even realized what hit them. The operation was a high-risk gamble, but as Carter watched the resistance fighters prepare, he felt a surge of confidence. For the first time since the invasion, he saw a glimmer of what victory could look like. Humans were no longer playing catch-up. They were learning how to fight, how to win, and the Vorkai were starting to feel the weight of that. As the convoy approached the ambush site, Carter's heart pounded in his chest. His team was in position, crouched behind makeshift barricades made from abandoned vehicles and concrete debris. Every human in the resistance knew their part. They had learned to use the alien weapons, but it was their courage, their ingenuity, and their determination that had become their greatest strength. The Vorkai convoy rolled into the trap, unaware of the danger that lay ahead. The first shots rang out, and the convoy's lead vehicle exploded into a ball of fire. The Vorkai were thrown into disarray, their advanced technology no match for the sheer unpredictability of human tactics. Carter's team struck with precision, attacking from multiple angles and using the terrain to outmaneuver the alien forces. By the end of the assault, the convoy had been decimated, and the materials, now in human hands, would provide a significant boost to the Resistance's weaponry. Victory, though hard-won, tasted sweet. "This is how we do it," Carter said, breathing heavily from the adrenaline of the battle. "We keep hitting them, and we make them bleed." Humanity was no longer just surviving. It was becoming a force that the Vorkai couldn't ignore. The tide was turning, slowly but surely. The aliens, so sure of their dominance, were now questioning their ability to control this planet. And Carter knew one thing for certain: this was just the beginning. As the days passed, it became clearer that humanity's resistance was no longer a sporadic uprising. It was a full-scale war. Each victory, though hard-fought, added to the growing strength of the resistance. The alien invaders, once confident in their dominance, were beginning to falter. Reports from across the globe indicated that the Vorkai were losing ground, their supply chains stretched thin and their morale weakening. They hadn't expected humanity to fight back with such ferocity, and now their own tactics were being used against them. But despite the Resistance's growing momentum, the Vorkai commander, Jirak, was not one to admit defeat. He knew that the time for decisive action was fast approaching. Jirak, with his cold and calculating demeanor, understood that the only way to break humanity's resolve was to strike a crippling blow. His next move would be catastrophic. In a broadcast that chilled the world to its core, Jirak announced the creation of a weapon that would bring humanity to its knees. "You have become a nuisance, humans," his voice rang out across the remnants of Earth's communication networks. "You have shown resilience, but it is now over. We will demonstrate the full extent of our power. We will eliminate your ability to resist. The planet will be destroyed in a matter of days, and your defiance will be forgotten." The weapon was unlike anything the Earth had ever seen. Jirak unveiled a massive doomsday device, an interstellar superlaser designed to fire directly into the planet's core, obliterating everything in its path. The Vorkai fleet began to position itself above Earth, preparing for the final strike. The countdown to Earth's destruction had begun. The news of the superweapon's impending arrival sent shockwaves through the human resistance. Desperation set in, but so did determination. Carter and the rest of the resistance leaders understood that this was humanity's final chance. If the superlaser fired, all would be lost. There would be no hope, no future for mankind. The only way to stop it was to infiltrate the Vorkai flagship and destroy the weapon before it could be activated. Carter gathered his most trusted team for a daring mission, one that seemed impossible even for their most experienced soldiers. They would have to board the Vorkai flagship, breach the heart of their fleet, and disable the superlaser. With the clock ticking down, there was no time to waste. They would either succeed or die trying. The mission was perilous. The Vorkai flagship was a fortress in space, surrounded by a legion of warships and defended by the most advanced alien technology. Carter knew that even with their best efforts, they might not make it. But he also knew that if they failed, humanity's last hope would be extinguished. Before embarking on the mission, Carter addressed his team. "This is it," he said, his voice steady, though the weight of the moment was clear in his eyes. "We do this for everyone we've lost, for every person still out there fighting. We fight for the future of humanity. If we don't stop them, we'll never get another chance. Now let's show the Vorkai what happens when they push us too far." With that, they set off on their most dangerous mission yet, knowing that the fate of the planet rested in their hands. Failure was not an option, but the odds were stacked higher than ever. The countdown had begun, and every passing second felt like an eternity. Carter and his team were aboard a makeshift stealth shuttle, hurtling toward the Vorkai flagship. They could see it now, a massive, ominous structure suspended in the void of space. The ship's dark, jagged silhouette, seemed to swallow the surrounding stars, its sheer size dwarfing anything humanity had ever built. Inside the shuttle, tension was thick. The team was silent, each person lost in their thoughts, their hearts heavy with the weight of what they were about to do. They had fought tooth and nail to survive this long, but now they were about to face the ultimate challenge, destroying the Vorkay's superweapon, the device that could erase humanity from existence. As they approached the flagship's hull, Carter activated the cloaking system on the shuttle. It was their only hope of getting close without being detected. The Vorkai were relentless in their patrols, their advanced sensors constantly scanning the area. One wrong move, one mistake, and it would all be over. Carter's mind raced, but he kept his focus. This was their chance to strike at the heart of the alien invaders. They would not go quietly into extinction. The shuttle glided silently towards the flagship's docking bay. Carter gestured for the team to prepare. The air was thick with anticipation as they readied their weapons and checked their gear. The mission was simple in its objective: infiltrate, disable the superlaser, and escape. But the execution was anything but simple. The moment the shuttle docked, Carter's team rushed out, moving with military precision. They were met with resistance almost immediately. Vorkai guards stationed at the entrance to the central corridor. But the resistance had learned from their past failures. They struck first, taking down the guards quickly, and moved deeper into the heart of the flagship. The Vorkai ship was a labyrinth of metallic corridors, dark and cold. The team navigated carefully, using the alien technology they had learned to adapt and counter. They knew that time was running out. Every minute they spent on the ship brought them closer to disaster. But there was no turning back now. 2 minutes until the superlaser is fully powered up. Dr. Emily Tran, the team's scientist, reported through the comms. Her voice was calm, but Carter could hear the urgency beneath it. "We're almost there, but we need to move faster." Carter nodded. "Push forward. We don't have time to waste." They reached the control room where the superlaser's power core was housed. The sight was even more monstrous than they had imagined. The core itself was a pulsating sphere of energy, glowing with an intense blue light. It was surrounded by layers of force fields and Vorkai engineers who were monitoring the power flow. Carter quickly assessed the situation. The force fields were a problem, but they weren't impenetrable. The team had learned a lot from the alien technology they had captured. Dr. Tran had been working on a device that could disrupt the energy shields, and now was the moment to put it to the test. "We're going to disable the shields," she said, a note of determination in her voice. "Just give me a few seconds." Carter motioned for his team to cover her as she moved toward the shield generators. The Vorkai engineers were still oblivious to their presence, distracted by the task at hand. The team moved with swift, silent steps. Carter could feel his pulse quicken as the countdown to destruction continued in the back of his mind. 50 seconds, Dr. Tran called out, her fingers dancing over the control panel. This should work. A surge of energy pulsed through the room as the shields flickered and then collapsed entirely. The engineers turned in alarm, but it was too late. Carter and his team moved in quickly, neutralizing the guards in a flurry of gunfire. "We've got it," Carter said, breathing heavily. "Now we destroy this thing." With the shield down, Dr. Tran set the charge to disable the core. Carter watched as she worked. Every second counted. They had one shot at this. If they failed, humanity's last hope would be gone. The seconds stretched into an eternity. Carter's team stood poised, weapons ready, as Dr. Tran worked to disable the Vorkai superlaser's core. Every moment, the pulse of energy from the device grew more erratic, a visible sign that it was near activation. The team knew that failure was not an option. The Vorkai were just as aware of the threat the humans posed now as the humans were aware of their own clock ticking down. 30 seconds, Dr. Tran said, her voice steady despite the pressure. Her hands moved swiftly over the controls, fingers flying over the alien interface with a confidence that had come from months of studying the Vorkay's technology. Almost there. But as she typed in the final command, a low hum echoed through the control room. The ground trembled beneath their feet, a shudder that rattled their bones. Carter's stomach dropped as the lights flickered, and the humming noise grew louder. "They've detected us," one of the resistance soldiers muttered, panic rising in his voice. "The whole ship knows we're here." Carter's mind raced. The team had to get out. They had barely started to disable the superlaser, and already the Vorkai had activated their alarm system. They were about to face a full-scale response from the alien invaders. "Keep calm," Carter barked. "We've got a job to finish." "Tran, how much longer?" Dr. Tran's face was a mask of determination as she worked, her eyes darting from screen to screen. "I've isolated the main power conduit. I can overload it, but I need another 30 seconds to manually force a meltdown." "We don't have 30 seconds," Carter snapped, his eyes darting to the hallway. The sound of approaching Vorkai soldiers echoed closer with every heartbeat. Carter clenched his jaw. They couldn't afford to wait. The Vorkai were going to be upon them any moment. His mind flashed back to the thousands of lives lost on Earth, to the countless cities reduced to rubble. For those people, for humanity, they couldn't let the aliens win. "Do it, Tran," Carter shouted, pointing to the power conduit. "We'll hold them off." Without hesitation, Dr. Tran set the final command in place. A loud metallic clank echoed through the room as the console hummed with energy. Sparks flew from the broken equipment as the power core began to destabilize. "We're done here," Dr. Tran yelled, turning to join the rest of the team as they readied their weapons. The moment the charge was set, they knew there was no time to waste. Vorkai soldiers appeared in the doorway, too many of them to fight off directly. Carter exchanged a glance with his team. The decision was quick. They had to retreat. With the charge set to overload, there was no time to face down the aliens. They had to get back to the shuttle, back to the resistance fleet, before the flagship exploded. "Fall back to the shuttle," Carter shouted, leading the charge as they sprinted for the exit. Blaster fire rang out behind them, echoing through the metallic corridors. The Vorkai were relentless in their pursuit, but the humans moved faster, their adrenaline pushing them forward. As they neared the docking bay, the ground quaked again. This time, stronger. The overload had started. The Vorkai flagship was beginning to tear itself apart. But just as they reached the shuttle, an explosion rocked the ship. A wave of shock and heat blasted through the hallway, sending Carter and his team tumbling to the floor. They scrambled to their feet, bloodied but alive, and dove into the shuttle. The doors slammed shut behind them, and the engines roared to life. As the shuttle peeled away from the flagship, Carter turned one last time to look at the chaos they had left behind. The flagship was erupting in a fiery explosion, lighting up the void of space. The superlaser, the very thing that could have destroyed humanity, was no more. It had worked. They had succeeded. "Earth's still standing," Carter muttered under his breath. His voice was hoarse with exhaustion, but a smile tugged at the corners of his lips. They had won this battle. And for the first time since the invasion began, Carter allowed himself to believe that humanity could still win the war. The Vorkai flagship exploded in a brilliant burst of light, a cataclysmic eruption that shook the very fabric of space. The shockwave rippled through the void, sending debris scattering in all directions. Inside the shuttle, Carter and his team were thrown back in their seats, the force of the explosion reverberating through the hull. They had barely escaped with their lives, but they had done it. The superlaser was destroyed, and with it, the Vorkai's most powerful weapon. For a long moment, there was silence in the shuttle. The team was bruised, bloodied, but alive. Outside the window, the remnants of the flagship continued to burn, a fiery monument to their victory. The stars shone cold and distant, but there was a sense of peace in the air, a quiet that contrasted sharply with the chaos that had preceded it. Carter let out a long breath, his hand still gripping the controls of the shuttle. The weight of what they had just done settled in his chest. They had stopped the Vorkai from wiping out humanity, but the war was far from over. The battle had been won, But the war? That would require more than just destruction. It would take a united world, a world that could stand against the alien invaders on every front. Status? Carter asked, his voice hoarse but steady. He glanced back at the team, each of them now looking at him with exhaustion in their eyes, but also a spark of something else. Hope. "We're alive," Dr. Tran said, a smile creeping onto her face. "And the rest of the fleet knows we did it. We've sent the signal. The Vorkai are reeling. We've given Earth a chance." A sense of relief washed over Carter. They had done it. They had taken down the heart of the alien invasion, and in doing so, had proven that humanity wasn't just a species to be eradicated. They were fighters, survivors. But Carter knew they couldn't stop here. They had seen firsthand how quickly the Vorkai could adapt. The enemy would retaliate, regroup, and launch new offensives. The victory wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something larger. It was a call to arms for every human on Earth to unite, to fight back and reclaim their world. Carter's communicator crackled to life. It was General Alvarez, the leader of the Global Resistance Forces. "Carter." Alvarez's voice was sharp, but there was a note of disbelief in it. "Did you actually do it? Did you destroy this superlizard?" "We did," Carter replied, his voice gaining strength with each word. "It's gone. The flagship is down, and their weapon is destroyed. We've got a shot now. The Vorkai are shaken. It's our time to strike back. Then it's time to plan our next move. You've given us the opening we need. But it won't be easy. The Vorkai won't go down quietly." "I know," Carter said, his gaze turning toward Earth's battered surface. "But we're no longer just surviving. We're fighting for something greater. Humanity's not going to back down." The shuttle veered into the atmosphere, heading toward the base camp where the rest of the resistance awaited. There, the next chapter of their struggle would unfold. A new era of hope and unity would rise from the ashes of the old world. As the shuttle descended toward Earth's surface, Carter looked out at the horizon, a sense of determination rising within him. The battle was far from over, but humanity had proven something tonight. They had proven that they were capable of standing against an empire that sought to crush them. And as long as they stood together, they could take back their world, one battle at a time. "We've only just begun," Carter said softly to himself. And in that moment, he knew humanity's wrath had only been unleashed.